Hi, everyone. As promised, today we are working more in depth with theme. On Tuesday, we talked about a plot diagram for the book Rent Party Jazz, or that's what you did individually, whereas I made a plot diagram for Mistletoe. So I'm going to show you how I can use that plot diagram to look at the main parts of a story, because a plot diagram is basically a summary. It has all those important parts. It's a really good summary of a fictional story. And so you're going to use that plot diagram to help you find theme. Okay. Now remember, theme is the lesson of the story. A theme does not have specifics in it. It does not, in this case, in my story, Mistletoe, my theme will not mention a moose, okay? I cannot use a lesson about a moose in everyday life. Theme has to do with lessons that we can use in our everyday life. What is this story trying to teach you about life in general? I'm not going to mention any character names. I'm not going to mention any specific settings. I'm going to be as broad as possible rather than specific. And we talked about that last week. We talked about what a theme would mean. And remember, we're looking for what the author thinks people should do. We don't necessarily have to agree with it. We don't necessarily have to practice it in our own life. But a theme is telling us what the author believes that people should do. So we're going to start our themes with people should blank, okay? After, of course, we restate the question, which I'll show you how to do. So, as I said, what's really important to do is look at our plot diagram, because the plot diagram has the most important parts of the story. It's important not to just pick whatever theme pops into our head. Maybe there'll be specific little instances in the story where one theme could kind of apply to it, but we want to look at the whole story and see, what was the author trying to teach us throughout the whole thing, not just a little part, okay? So we want to look at that whole plot. Here was my plot diagram for Mistletoe. Here's my plot diagram. If you recall, I had him, it says, Moose was getting ready for Christmas and wanted everything perfect. Then Moose forgot the tree. Remember, that was the problem. There were no trees left, and then his children were really sad. He was sad, and then he had an idea. He told his kids to get the glue. For the falling action, Moose made himself into a tree. He realized not everything needs to be perfect, and he stayed as the tree all night. The resolution, the kind of happily ever after moment, was that he met Santa Claus. So now I'm going to look at this. And I'm not going to talk about, I'm going to look at my main character. In this case, my main character was Moose. And I'm going to think, okay, how did Moose as a character change? Now remember, the big change happens here. There's some big change that happens at the climax, okay? So think of how Moose was at the beginning, then something changed, and think of how he was at the end. Now, what I'm not going to do is put that Moose was sad and then he was happy, okay? Those are feelings. I need to talk about what he believed at the beginning of the story, First, what he believed at the end of the story. Remember, we talked about feelings are fleeting, okay? Feelings don't tell me anything. I could be mad one second and super happy the next. I could be sad one second and super ecstatic the next second. We are not looking for feeling words here. I'm not going to say Moose was sad, then he was happy. I'm going to look for what was he like as a character, as a whole? What did he believe in? So this is where I look at my character change sheet, which looks like this. On my character change sheet, I wrote the name of the main character. In this case, the main character was Moose. Now, what did Moose believe at the beginning of the story before the climax? I even have it on mine. Well, I have it over here. He wanted everything perfect. And then over here, he realized that not everything had to be perfect. So that's what he thought over here. And then it completely changed. Remember, it's kind of like the opposite of each other. So on my plot diagram, I'm going to put that at the beginning of the story. Moose thinks everything needs to be perfect. And then what happened at the opposite of that? At the end of it, he realized that not everything needs to be perfect. Okay, so now this one has a lot of questions here. It said, what did he learn? Why did he change? What caused the change? What did he realize? How is he a better person? I focus on why did he change? Why did he think everything needed to be perfect? And then he realized that not everything needed to be perfect. Well, it's because his plan didn't really work out. He had a plan to have a tree, and then that didn't really happen, did it? So why did he change? Because everything did not go as planned. So that's my character trait, or that's my character change sheet for my book. So now I need to somehow make this character change worksheet that I filled out into a theme. The way that the character changed, the reason that the character changed, and the lesson that that character learned had something to do with the theme. Now, it can be hard to just think of a theme from scratch. Okay, so I have made something that might give you guys a little more guidance. It looks like this, and it should be on your Google Classroom. Let me make this a little smaller for us. Okay. So now these are just kind of like sentence ideas for you, theme ideas for you. And you need to use these words to make your own theme, okay? So use these as kind of a guide. Here are some things that books might be trying to teach us. They might be trying to teach us about acceptance. Books that teach us about acceptance have characters who respect and accept others' differences and beliefs. So that would be like books that have to do with characters learning about accepting others throughout the book. Books that are about courage have characters who have this risk, and then they have to this fear, and then they have to overcome it throughout the book. Now, perseverance is a word that you may or may not know. Perseverance has to do about grit. So when we persevere in school, that means we work through those tough math problems. So books that are about perseverance have characters who never give up, even when there's something really difficult in front of them. And the whole book is about how they don't give up. They persevere through the tough times, right? Cooperation means that characters have to work together. They maybe are independent at first, and then they realize they have to work together to achieve that goal. That would be the theme of cooperation. Books that have themes of compassion are books that have characters that help others who are suffering. Books with themes of honesty have characters who have to figure out that telling the truth is the best thing to do. So maybe they're not honest at first, and then they have to go through something where they realize that honesty is the right way to go. Kindness, maybe it's a character who's mean at first, and then they realize that kindness is the way to go, that kindness is going to solve their problems. Books that have themes of loyalty are books that have characters who trust each other and never turn their back on their friends. So it would be like they stick together, throughout the hard times. Books might have themes about friendship, so that would be books that it's this close knit friend group who don't don't waver in their love for each other. Or maybe at first they do, and then they realize friendship is important to them. Same with family. Maybe they realize that family is the most important thing. There could be books with the theme of gratitude. So books with themes of gratitude would have maybe like a greedy character who then realizes they need to appreciate the things that they have. And then there might be books that teach us about forgiveness. So it might have a character who was hurt in some way, and then they realize that forgiveness is going to heal their heart. So these are really going to encompass pretty much every theme. These are very broad words, and so then we would use these words to help us make them into a theme sentence. So I'm going to look at these words, and I'm going to kind of decide, okay, which would have to do with my book Mistletoe the most. Okay, so for acceptance, yes, this book had characters who accepted each, like Moose was really nice, but he didn't change because he was accepting others. He just that was never anything that he really had to deal with there. So that would be a no for that one. He wasn't like, he didn't have to go through something really courageous through this. So I don't think courage is it either. Perseverance. He never gave up when he was facing difficult times. Yeah, I would say that could be an option. So let me highlight some different options here. I might highlight that one just to look at that. Now that's not to say that that'll be my final theme. I need to look at some different themes and see which one fits it best. Cooperation. These books have characters who work together to solve a problem or achieve a goal. I mean, his family works together with him to make him into that tree. So I'm going to highlight that one. That one might be the answer too. It didn't really have to do with characters who were suffering and made them feel better. Didn't have to do with honesty. He was kind, but the reason he changed didn't really have to do with kindness. Didn't really have to do with loyalty. He wasn't like sticking with his friend group or something. I mean, he was a nice guy, but I would not say that's what it's trying to teach us. We didn't even see any friends in this. We saw family. These books would include characters who realize that family is the most important aspect in their life. I guess that, by the end, he did kind of realize like, oh, I have my family with me. But I would say that it doesn't really mention that. I'm not going to highlight that one. Gratitude. These books would include characters who overcome greediness. They learn to appreciate what they have. I mean, yeah, he did learn to appreciate what he had. I wouldn't call him greedy in the beginning, but I'm going to highlight that one just in case. And then forgiveness. There was nothing that Moose needed to forgive or anything. So my three options are gratitude, cooperation, and perseverance here. And if I had to choose, and I'm going to look back at my character change worksheet here. He thought everything needed to be perfect. He realized not everything needed to be perfect. And the reason that happened was because everything did not go as planned. So everything did not go as planned. So he kind of had to adjust his expectations a little bit. I think the one of these that I have highlighted that has to do the most with what Moose went through would be perseverance for me. He was going through something. I wouldn't call it like super difficult, but he had this situation that wasn't ideal, and he had to kind of push through it so that he could make Christmas still good. So I'm going to use perseverance as kind of my idea here. Now, I'm not going to say my theme is people should perseverance. That doesn't make any sense. I need to use perseverance to help guide my thinking into making a theme. Okay? So the way that we are going to present our theme is by doing a yes, ma'am writing with this. Now, I know that you might be saying, oh, no, but Yes, ma'am, writing really does not have to be this huge, complicated thing. I'm going to show you how to do it for this type of question. And it's a really good way of making sure that you have text evidence for whatever you're saying the theme is. You can say the theme is whatever, as long as you have, first of all, as long as it's about the whole plot, not just a little part, but also, you might have picked out of these three things, you might have picked gratitude as your theme. That's fine, but you need to prove it to me with text evidence. So I'm going to show you how to prove it to me using the yes, ma'am format. Now, what you're going to need for this is in your reading journals. So pause, go get your reading journals. In your reading journals, you have this. This is important. Open to this page. We've used it before. We're going to use it again. Remember, when we're writing yes, ma'am, part of the reason why it doesn't have to be as difficult as we make it is because these have half the sentences on it. They spell out how they want our sentences to be formatted. So get this out and have it open when you are completing your yes, ma'am, Google Doc. Okay. So mine looks like this. I read the story Mistletoe. And so my question is, what is the theme of Mistletoe? What yours will say is, what is the theme of Rent Party Jazz? Okay. So for the M part, now you guys don't need to write this down. For the M part, remember, this is where I talk about what I think. M means me. A means author, so that's talking about the author's words here. And then the M is what I think again. Okay, so I think the theme has to do with perseverance, but I need to think of a way to put that into a sentence. So if I were typing this out into this first part, it said, what is the theme of Mistletoe? I'm going to restate the question first, because remember, if we look at this, it says, for the me, repeat key words from the question and provide a general answer / inference. You are just going to say, you are just going to give the most basic answer ever right now, and then you're going to prove it later. Okay, so watch this. If I go here, I'm going to start with, I think the theme of Mistletoe. Notice how I'm using words from this question. I think the theme of Mistletoe is, now remember, my theme is going to start with people should. People should, and it has to do with perseverance. Remember, perseverance has to do with not giving up when things are tough. So I need to find a way to put perseverance into a sentence, or put persevere into a sentence, something having to do with not giving up. So what I'm going to put is, I think the theme of Mistletoe is that people should persevere. Persevere. Even, I'm going to elaborate a little bit. I'm not just going to say people should persevere. I'm going to say even when things are not going perfect. I think that's important that I put the even when things are not going perfect, because Moose mentioned a lot he wanted everything perfectly perfect. So notice how I took perseverance and I kind of contorted that into a sentence of my own, from my own thoughts. I think that this book is trying to teach us that we shouldn't give up when things, maybe aren't going as we planned. I could even say that even when things are not going as planned. Oopsie, that's spelled wrong. As planned. Notice how on this first sentence, I do not put the word because. Do not put the word because on this first sentence. On this first sentence, we're just putting a brief, I think the theme is this. Done. On this next part, that is where we're going to offer our proof. I don't want to know why you think that yet. That's what this part right here is for. So remember, this part is what the author says. I don't want to know any of your thoughts in here. I want to know what the author said in the story. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to go to my Yes Ma'am page. Again, yours is in your notebook. And I'm going to choose one of these things. I'm going to choose one that makes sense. Okay, I'm not going to choose the one that says stanza. That has to do with poetry. I usually just pick the first one or two. I think those are fine. So I'm going to say, in the text, comma, just like it said on that chart, that Yes Ma'am chart, in the text. And now I'm going to talk about something that happened in my book, Mooseletoe. Moose forgot the tree and was really sad about it. Now, notice how I didn't just pick anything random from the story. I didn't just put whatever here. I didn't talk about Santa coming. That doesn't have to do with Moose persevering. For me, the reason why I picked that Moose, or that the theme is that people should persevere even when things are not going as planned, is because he was really sad. One of the reasons is because he was sad when things weren't going as planned. He forgot the tree. Something else that the author says. So guys, look, I'm already done with that sentence. I have one sentence in there. I'm going to stop that one. Now I'm going to the next one. I'm again going to pick a sentence starter. You know what? I'm just going to use the same one. If I want, that's what I can do. So I'm going to say, in the text, Moose ends up making himself into the tree. That's a big reason why I chose the theme of persevere, because he had this bad situation. He made the most out of it by making himself into a tree. So that's my third sentence. Done with that one. Make sure whatever you put here actually has to do with why you chose it as the theme. Now, this next part is the hardest part for most people. Now we're going back to what we think, okay? So if we look here, this part has two parts, okay? We restate the answer by saying one of these. I always just choose the first one. This shows. Now watch how I do this. Oops. Watch how I do this. I'm going to say, this shows, and look, if you want to be really, really lazy, you can just go up here and I'll highlight this part. I don't want to say the I think part because that's not going to make sense, but I'm going to copy and paste it. So I'm going to press Control C to copy, or you can right click and press that, and Control V to paste it. You guys can just retype it if you want, but that's showing like you're literally putting the same thing for that part there. But I'm not done. I restated my question, right? I restated it. I said, this shows that the theme is this. Now, this is where I want for you to put because. Because now I explain. What do these things have to do with the theme of persevere? This shows that the theme of Mooseletoe is that people should persevere even when things are not going as planned, because in this case, his original plan but he made the most out of the situation by making himself into a tree. Boom. I'm explaining what those two sites from the text have to do with the theme of persevere. Okay? So, your assignment is to complete the character change sheet. To complete the character change sheet about Rent Party Jazz. You're going to use the main character from Rent Party Jazz to fill this out. Then you're going to use that to make your yes ma'am about the theme of Rent Party Jazz. So there's 2 parts to this assignment, as you can see on Google Classroom. All right. All right, guys. Best of luck to you. And I will talk to you on Google Meet.